On this episode of the Reckless Wrench Garage, we're going to take apart the entire front end of the Ranger and hopefully make it better. The radius arms in Dana 44 are going away, and a new 609 axle and 3-link suspension will be installed. Now that the new axle is underneath the truck, this is the part of every build when you just lay there and you imagine where all this stuff's going to try and fit together. You take a bunch of measurements, and then you look at everything again. And then you take even more measurements, you hope that you're right, and then you plug all those into the 3-link calculator. My goal for the 3-link suspension is to keep the truck as low as possible, but get as much up travel as I can. To do that, I needed to cut off the existing bump stop brackets and the factory engine crossmember. While I was cutting the bump stops off, I found that the passenger side frame had a fatigue bend where the bump stop mounted, and the base of the shock hoop had a small crack. I needed to reinforce these spots, and I wanted to plate the frame on the driver's side where the track bar bracket will weld to, and give it some extra strength. I traced the shape of the frame rails onto some paper, transferred that to some 1/4-inch plate, and then blasted them out with the plasma cutter. This should give the frame a little bit better of a foundation to add the track bar bracket and the bump stops. With the frame rails reinforced and ready to go, it was time to start building the links. My first step was to put some duct tape down and make wheelbase marks to help keep the axle aligned throughout the build process. The lower links are pretty straightforward and they find their spot on the frame relatively easily. Earlier in my measuring stage, I tried a few different lengths for the lower links and I settled around 42 inches long. I'm using link brackets from Barnes 4-wheel drive that I'm welding to the bottom side of the frame. As I mentioned in the 3-link 101 video, a huge benefit to these enduro joints is the extended shank, which will give me tons of adjustability once I get the suspension built.
Wow, I'm an idiot. Your welding helmet actually works if you take your sunglasses off first. All right, let's put this thing on there.
With the lower links in place, I wanted to locate the axle laterally next. I put the track bar bracket as far forward as I could until I started running into clearance issues with the steering linkage and the oil pan. This adjustable track bar bracket from Barnes has a few different options that you could use. I wanted my track bar as close to the same length and slope as the steering drag link. I used the second hole and then I cycled the axle up and down to check and make sure I had good clearances. Once the axle was cycled through its travel, I cut the tacks on the track bar bracket and then I trimmed off the excess part that I didn't need, and I welded on a capture nut plate from Dueling Design. This nut plate will help prevent the bolt from coming loose, and you only need one wrench to tighten it, so it makes it pretty convenient. I have more of these captured nut plates. I really like the design, and I'm probably going to add them to more of my link brackets as I do maintenance on the truck.
I worked until it got dark last night trying to get my upper link situated, and it didn't quite work out like I was hoping it would. So I've been planning on mounting the upper link on top of the differential housing and then going back right next to the transfer case. But when I got everything lined up last night, the upper link and the drive shaft want to live in the same area whenever the axle goes into compression, which is not good. So this is a perfect example of if you have a plan and you think everything's going to work out one way, and then once you actually put it on the vehicle and start moving things around and seeing where everything is going to exist, you're going to have to probably change some of your plan. I'm going to try moving the upper link over to the passenger side of the axle. So originally I didn't want to have my upper link on the passenger side because the exhaust merges over there and I have the starter, it kind of hangs down low. So there's other obstacles on that side as well, but I'm gonna mess around with some things, see if I could get a spot over there where everything is gonna exist together, and yeah, we'll just keep plugging away. Just remember, you know, when you're doing a project like this, you might have a plan together, and then it might totally change. You just gotta roll with the punches sometimes.
Since my plans have changed, I now need an upper link mount for the axle, and of course it's Saturday and I have a deadline to be in Moab soon. Out comes the cardboard and plasma cutter, and after an hour or so, I have an adjustable upper link mount.
I worked on this thing all day yesterday, building the bump stops and the coilover mounts. We already have a video on bump stops and when I did the coilover mounts the first time on this. I just had to move everything back because the brackets on the axle are a little bit further aft on this one, so I had to adjust a lot of stuff, and it was just a lot of time consuming work in the driveway. I've cycled this thing from bump to full droop, and I'm pretty happy with everything. It looks good. I'm going to take it all out, weld up the links permanently, weld up all the brackets, throw some paint on it, and then reinstall.
After the links were done, I could raise the truck up and reinstall the coilovers. Chris came over and helped me do a quick alignment, bleed the brakes, and he laughed at me while I struggled to put the steering together.
Chris is loving this right now.
Look away. I'm just here for entertainment purposes. I'm not actually doing anything.
The final piece of this swap is a new drive shaft from our friends over at fulltorquedriveshafts.com. We have been using and abusing these drive shafts for years, and we have never had any issues with them no matter how much abuse we put them through. If you need a new custom shaft, be sure to go to fulltorquedriveshafts.com and check them out. Now that we got the drive shaft installed, we could get this thing out of the driveway and do a little test run.
All right, well, as you guys see, we're out of the driveway, so that means we did some things right, I guess. We got the 3-link suspension built, the 609 axles swapped in, and we got a few road miles on it so far. As you guys watched, we did a little bit of testing out here, nothing major. There's no rocks or anything like that to crawl, so we kind of just are limited to putting it in 4-wheel drive in the sand and, you know, driving around a little bit out here. I actually kind of struggled to even find a spot that I could try to flex this thing out. This has way more in the suspension than what I have right here. Like I said, I really couldn't find a good spot to flex it out at. Everything is working great so far. It feels awesome. It feels way different than the radius arms did, both on and off-road. I'm gonna have to get used to driving this thing again just because, like I said, it's a significant change in how the suspension feels and is reacting. So in the future, once I get more wheel time in this, I'm probably gonna do a comparison video of radius arms to the 3-link. So if you guys have any questions about that, you know, drop it in the comments. The only thing I have left to do on the front end is install the limit straps. I was waiting to do that for the front drive shaft. Mainly because I want to make sure when I get the limit straps in that my drive shaft U-joints, that those aren't bottoming out. I want to make sure I don't pull my shocks apart, and I want to make sure that all of my rod ends aren't going over articulated in the suspension. So the limit straps are going to help with all of those. Like I said, I'm excited to test this thing out. Hopefully in the next couple weeks I'm able to get out and go rock crawling and really push the limits of this thing. If you guys are interested in any of the parts used in this video, check out Barnes 4-Wheel Drive for any of your link suspension needs. And if you need a custom drive shaft yourself, go to fulltorquedriveshafts.com and check them out. Huge thanks to those guys. Support those who support us. That's it for this episode. If you guys enjoyed it, hit that like button. Put a comment down below if you have any questions, concerns, anything like that. Let us know. Hit that subscribe button if you guys want to see the Ranger go out on a shakedown run here in the near future. And until next time, stay reckless.
You gotta put the clown music on this one.
Oh yeah. Wait till you see the axle video.
Yeah?
And me putting together two fucking inner axle shafts.
Did you record that?